It's an issue which the Scottish Government has tried to tackle, but homelessness continues to be a persistent problem. Now, new figures published today underline how grave the situation really is. Scotland has the highest rate of deaths amongst homeless people in Britain. Last year, nearly 200 people died. 3/4 of those were men. And the average age at which they died? Just 44 years old. Well, our reporter Kay Nicholson has been looking at this story. Kay, 44 years old, that's shocking.
Yes, it's not the kind of thing you expect to hear in 2020, but that is sadly the young age that some people are losing their lives while battling homelessness. Homeless deaths in Scotland rose by a fifth between 2017 and 2018. There were an estimated 195 homeless deaths in 2018 compared to 164 the year before.
And do we have a breakdown of the causes of those deaths?
Yes, there is a breakdown. Around half or more than half of those deaths in 2018 were drug related. There were other causes including suicide, alcohol and medical conditions as well. The Scottish Government says it is treating this as a wider public health emergency that Scotland is facing, particularly with drugs deaths, problems that we've heard a lot about recently. And Housing Minister Kevin Stewart said today that he's redoubling his efforts to tackling homelessness.
Certainly, looking at them, very alarming statistics, Kay.
They really do make grim reading, and as you know, Kellyanne, I've been looking at poverty and homelessness a lot over the last few years. So today I went back out onto the streets to speak to some of those at the sharp end.
It's just a sad existence. Every day is just like Groundhog Day.
Almost a year on from our first chat, Keith is still stuck in a cycle of rough sleeping. His only respite, an occasional night in a hostel. He suffers from a lung condition, but says he's one of the lucky ones.
I've known quite a lot of people that are not here now, because either the cold or the drugs or the drink, it's just one of these things, I suppose. You just take each day as it comes, and hopefully make it through at the other end.
That harrowing reality is laid bare in new figures, showing that 31 more homeless people died in 2018 compared with the year before. Across the country, just under 200 people classed as homeless lost their lives in 2018. That's the equivalent of about 4 people dying every week. The majority of those who died were men, at an average age of just 44. The average age for women was 43. Those people weren't all rough sleepers. Some were staying in temporary accommodation when they died. John Conway has personal experience of homelessness. He's now a support worker and says attitudes need to change.
What I know does work is when you give people your time and don't judge them for the circumstances or the situations they're in, but love them regardless and walk alongside them. I've seen many people just changing right in front of me. There's a couple of guys I'm working with now, and the transformation in their life is just phenomenal, and it's just all I've done is create a safe space for them.
It's down to the decision makers in Scotland to say where do our priorities lie. We cannot continue to turn our back on people who are dying on the streets, dying in hostels, dying in temporary accommodation, let down by the system. This should be a badge of shame for every single one of us here in Scotland, and we can do something about it, and we must do something about it.
Back on the streets, Keith is on a housing waiting list. He's trying to keep faith that he can still turn his fortunes around. Kay Nicholson, STV News, Edinburgh.